The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Fast am I. Good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Open line through until 1 o'clock today. So, whatever's on your mind today, lines are open on 66 13 68. Could be that significant reduction in horse tram passengers. Perhaps shortening the route had something to do with it. You never know, but... And MHKs, as you heard in the news, have backed the second reading of the vote for the Bishop Bill. Any thoughts? Text, email, call and WhatsApp. And Howard's first with us today. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Just a question. It's part of your news that was in last week. And excuse me if I seem stupid, but the Manx Care Executive Medical Director is currently undertaking clinical activity in Liverpool after completing a secondment at another UK hospital. Now, this medical director, I don't know what part he plays in the hospital day-to-day running, but if he is on Manx Care's payroll, if he's employed through the system of Manx Care, how can he, and this is since 2021, so we've been 2-3 years going, working other facilities whereby it's coming under the title of Manx Care. Now, am I being stupid, or has that man got two jobs? And if so, is the Isle of Man government, taxpayers, paying his salary while he's working in the Liverpool hospital?
Well, we'll find out because Teresa Cope's going to be on Mannin Line before Christmas. But, I mean, she did say at the time, and this we're talking about Sri Andol, aren't we?
That's right.
That's right. She did say at the time his secondment was a great loss because he went to University Hospitals Derby and Burton in Derbyshire, and as you said, he's now working in Liverpool. But apparently the work in Liverpool is part of his contract with Manx Care. So we don't know the ins and outs of it at the moment, but Dr. Hudson, I think Marina Hudson, is interim medical director during this time. So it may be the ins and outs of that world that we don't know. But I thought when I saw that last week, I don't know whether it was the wording, but it just seemed a bit strange.
Well, when I worked for the company I was with for many, many years, you could have a second job, but you had to seek permission and it had to be granted because who you were employed by at the time as a full-time basis was your main employer. Anything else after that was secondary, and you had to have permission. But what I can't understand is this is a senior medical director on the executive committee, and he is not even on the island. And didn't we have this problem not so very long ago where we had medical directors and hierarchy up in the managerial system where nobody knew what was going on? And if you haven't got your finger on the button like is operating on the Isle of Man, which is an entity and paying for Manx Care, then how can you operate successfully? How can you work the system successfully?
As you say, I think this is down to who's going to be paying his salary, who's going to be funding it. We don't know the ins and outs of his contract. It may be that this is involved in this. And, of course, we don't know at this level. There may be a shortage of the function that he can provide. But certainly that's something I'll put before Teresa Cope when she's in, actually, the Monday before Christmas, Monday the 18th, Teresa Cope's going to be on. Yeah. So we'll have a pre-Christmas chat with her, but it just seems, well, as you say, it just seems that, with the fact that we had this story yesterday about the cystic fibrosis treatment, there's the issue with the diabetes service and what have you. Mm-hmm. It just seems that at the moment there are more questions than answers.
What seems strange is this man still on the payroll of the Manx government, Manx Care, and working elsewhere. And will eventually retire because they have I don't know if the cap is still there, they have a cap on their pension scheme, and this is why doctors and senior medical practitioners are leaving early, because they've reached X number of pounds and it's not beneficial to stay. So this man could be working 2 places, but we used to always say you can't serve 2 masters, and this is exactly what is happening here if this is the instance. And this man should be taken off the Manx Cares executive, and if he wants to work in Liverpool, fine, but he can't serve Liverpool and the Isle of Man successfully and properly to the benefit of both sets of patients, not only here but in Liverpool. So somewhere there's a serious question needing, not from the director of the hospital, although it can be, but from our government. And they're so busy chatting about getting rid of the bishop, and we got a doctor here, a clinical doctor, who's working in Liverpool and still under the directors of Manx Care.
Okay,
so
well,
there's a serious question needing asking of our own Minister of Health and within government.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Howard.
Take care. Bye now.
This is the story about Manx Care's Executive Medical Director, who is currently undertaking clinical activity in Liverpool after completing a secondment in Derby, in Derbyshire, with the Derby and Burton NHS Foundation Trust. This is Dr. Shreeman Andol, who joined us in 2021. In the letter that was to staff that was shared at the time with Manx Radio, Teresa Cope, the Chief Exec of Manx Care, described his secondment as a great loss, adding the Trust have made a proactive approach for the stroke consultant. In April of this year, the Manx Care confirmed that Dr. Marina Hudson, who's a clinical director for Manx Care, had taken over as a medical director on an interim basis, an appointment that was supposed to last 6 months. In September, a new interim medical director took over at Derby and Burton, so Dr. Andol left Derby and Burton, and Manx Care has confirmed that he completed his secondment and is now working in Liverpool, apparently part of his contract with Manx Care. Now, we're not suggesting there's anything untoward going on here. It's just maybe this kind of concatenation of circumstance that at the moment, if you're outside the industry, it looks a bit strange, really. It may be entirely normal within the medical fraternity, but obviously most of us aren't. Dr. Hudson will remain interim medical director during this time. Howard mentioned that the Department of Health and Social Care Minister, Mr. Hooper, was in Keys this morning as the proposals to remove the Bishop's Tynwald vote moved to the next stage. MHK supported the second reading of the Constitution Bill. 14 members out of the 24 supported the private members' bill from Ramsey, MHK, Laurie Hooper. 9 voted against. So it's 14-9. A number of issues were raised during the debate, including the speed at which the changes could be made and how having an even number of votes could affect LegCo. Mr. Hooper addressed some of the concerns.
We work pretty well with an even-numbered branch. We work pretty well in LegCo right now with an even-numbered branch because there is no bishop. Has LegCo ceased to function because there is an even number of members sitting around the table for probably the best part of a year? Actually, that's how long it took to appoint the last bishop. It didn't stop functioning. Actually, it worked quite well. The President has a casting vote. There's no need to change the law or the rules because actually it's a system that is quite well established and functions, like I say, broadly quite well. I'm not entirely sure where the speed concerns come from. First reading, second reading clauses. This is our standard process. I'm not asking the House of Keys to bypass or enhance that in any way. We are simply going through the stages. Mr. Smith asked how we find permission to leapfrog the legislative agenda. The reality is you ask permission from this Honourable House. It's that simple. Then you invest some of your own time and energy in doing the job we've been elected to do. That isn't something that I find overly difficult, and again I would suggest honourable members shouldn't either. Mr. Thomas. Oh, Mr. Thomas. I'm not really sure how I can respond to the ageism that was very, very clearly present in some of his commentary. Now, I'm getting used to Mr. Thomas's irrelevant and nonsense contributions, so I think the only way to respond is somehow in kind.
One hand, yeah.
A priest, an imam and a rabbit walk into a bar, Mr. Speaker. And the rabbit, being simply a device for comedic value, turns to the audience and says, you know what, guys,
Mr. Speaker.
Come on, Mr. Speaker. Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I actually take that offensive of my honourable colleague there. I find his contribution really valuable. And I
order.
think
That's not a point of order. That's a debating point.
How does he get an open
On order, Mr. Hooper has the floor.
Unbelievable.
It's a debating point.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like I said, I've tried raising concerns about irrelevance and repetition in the past. It seems sometimes the only way to appropriately deal with them is to respond with more irrelevance and repetition.
I'll set the honourable member straight on that one as well. It's not the solution.
Well, that's our elected House this morning talking about the vote and the bill that will get rid of the vote from the bishop. We don't have a bishop at the moment. We have an interregnum until we get a bishop that's been given to us by York. The Archbishop of York will announce it as the Soda and Man bishopric comes under that. Have you got any thoughts on this? Do you think this is an irrelevance, or do you think it is a very important constitutional point? Do you think in this day and age it's something that we need to have the bishop in Legislative Council with a vote, or do you think as part of a tradition, and the Isle of Man is big on tradition, that we should keep it, and really it's no business of MHKs to be meddling with the Constitution? Text, email, call and WhatsApp. It will be interesting to see what happens. If you've got anything to mention where that's concerned, it'll be interesting to see just where we go with this, rather than, I mean, obviously, when is our health minister going to start sorting out the serious failings of his department? Says Texter 328. Well, he's not just got that job, he is also an MHK, and he does... he's mentioned many times when he's been on Mannin Line that he's not a delegate for the constituents. He is an MHK who's got brains and he's got an opinion and obviously an agenda. So text. Call, email and WhatsApp. I see the Isle of Man is all over BBC News regarding Catherine Magson whistleblowing. It's on Radio 4 tonight. If you want to listen to it, I'm not going to take you away from the tender mercies of Chris Kinley with Greatest Hits, but if you do want to listen to it, I think it's available on their catch-up service. It's on, I think it's File on 4 tonight. It's all about the Rosalind Ranson, Catherine Magson, and the COVID situation on the Isle of Man. It's on BBC tonight. I just wonder, David said, do you think this is good for the Isle of Man's reputation? Well, we'll see, won't we? But obviously the BBC has taken a big interest in that. Doesn't the opposition to the assisted dying bill evidence just why so many rational, free-thinking people, says Jim, object to a religious presence in the government? They use their religious biases to interfere with our human rights, says Jim. It's a point, Jim, and thanks for making it. The change may come. You never know. We may lose the vote or the presence of the bishop in our upper house on the Isle of Man. Been there for years, decades, centuries. But may go. If we ever get trams to the sea terminal, if we have a cruise boat with as many people wanting to use it, how long will they have to wait for the next tram, says Robbie. It's a good point. You presume that when the horse trams go back to the sea terminal, that the people in charge of the horse trams will schedule the requisite number of trams. Surely they can do that. Do you think they... And I want to go to, before we talk about Sellafield, we're going to mention about Sellafield. Wilf's with us now. Hi, Wilf.
Hiya. Well, I've already told you what I think about the bishop being in the Keys, but the thing is...
Well, it's worth repeating, Wilf. Just tell us.
Well, I don't think he should be there at all, because you've got, as I said, you've got that many different nationalities on the Isle of Man now, that they should all be representative. So there's that many of them, and that's not going to happen. So he shouldn't be there at all. It's unfair. It's unfair that we should be... not everybody on the Isle of Man is Christian now. Of course, I'm an atheist anyway, so it doesn't affect me at all. That's just my thought on that.
Yeah, but do you think there should be somebody in our political process with a spiritual leaning, even if it's on a rotating basis? Do you think we should have somebody there?
No, not at all. Because as I said before, I'm an unbeliever, and we've got a lot more on the Isle of Man who are unbelievers anyway, but they don't say anything about it. I don't care. I've never been a believer. But that's only my opinion. But I'll go a little bit further than that. When we elect MHKs, I think it was 24 of them, isn't it? 24 altogether?
Yes, it is, 24, yeah.
Yeah, well, we elect them because they say what they will do and what they won't do, and we elect them because we think they're clever people. And then we get them in, and then we got LegCo in, who I asked one time, I said, what did LegCo actually do? And they were there to vet, if you like, to put it simply, to vet the ideas of the 24 MHKs, to say, that's a good idea, that's a bad idea, no, we won't have that. I've always said LegCo shouldn't exist. They shouldn't be there. The people took from here, there, and everywhere, and really they haven't. They might have a bit of experience in the job that they do as a private person, but they've no experience unless they've been taken from the keys and put in LegCo. They've no experience of life really, only what they've done in life. It's the MHKs that should make all the rules. That's just one thing. I was just curious now. Have you had what's the situation in Douglas for the east wind with the stones on the beach?
I can't see from here, Wilf. What are we expecting?
Well, it's easterly wind, isn't it? I was just wondering if much stones got washed up.
Oh, crikey! Tomorrow night, we're going to have some gales tomorrow night as well.
Right, okay. Well, anything with east in it'll affect Douglas, especially southeast. But I was in Laxey on Sunday, and I had a look over the beach, and there seems to be an awful lot of stuff gone from there. And I was just wondering, would anybody come on from Laxey to say, was it? I couldn't see where they pushed it into a heap, one end of, like they said they were doing. Or somebody said they were doing in Laxey. I thought they must have pushed on the heap so they could scoop it out with a digger and take it away. I hope they've taken it away. But I looked down and there's a big drop now. And I was just wondering, because we've had east wind last night, and we've got east wind at the moment, what's the state of Laxey at the moment? Okay. Because we got a big drop now. We got all the steps are showing now, as they used to be. I was just curious to see, is Laxey copping it or not?
Okay, well, if anybody's listening in Laxey, or if you're down there with a camera, take a photo, and if you can WhatsApp to us, that would be fantastic. All right, thanks, Wilf.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Good to hear from you. Anytime you want to WhatsApp a photo to us, by the way, you can. You WhatsApp 166 177. You'll need us in your contacts to do that, but you can always WhatsApp us a photo quite easily. New readers start here regarding LegCo. If you're not completely au fait with it, obviously 24 MHKs and 11 in LegCo. So 3 ex officio, 8 elected by the MHKs. The ex officio are the President, although the President does have a casting vote, the Bishop of Soda and Man, and the Attorney General. So Bishop does have a vote at the moment, so the Attorney General just sits there, obviously observes, and doesn't vote. The LegCo is there for scrutiny. It's if you like, the scrutineer of what the MHKs do. So do you think the Bishop should be there in LegCo? I just wonder what your thoughts are regarding that. And a note in for, I don't think the argument is an argument of religion or not. says WhatsApp 232. I'm sure some MHKs have religious beliefs themselves. I think the better argument we should be having is what relevance, skills and qualities does a bishop have that we need and we can't get elsewhere, being that LegCo is there for scrutiny. It's to oversee what the MHKs get up to, what keys enacts or puts through as in the way of legislation. So what skills and qualities does a bishop have that we need and we can't get elsewhere? David's on now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. And I'd keep the bishop, and that's just my view anyway. Regarding the stones as well, and we jumped in there, we still haven't found out who authorised it, who's paying for it, and what was the conclusions that have been reached now it's been done. As Will said, it looks a lot deeper, and there's more capacity for stones to come back in again, and it's a natural resource. But I wanted to talk about planning. I just wondered, there is a backlog on decisions of planning, and one of them would be, as far as I know at the minute, is the Newsom site. But wanting to progress all these sites around the island, and there's one going down to Port Erin as well now, isn't it? Where there's a developer who wants to, with government assistance, develop some apartments down there.
It is. It's Tavere want to do the old Ocean Castle.
And then we have people then throwing anchors. Never mind spanners in the water. They're anchors in the water, isn't it? Where there are mechanisms where if political members get together, can resolve these issues. That's why we have policies and decisions. And if we want to have what we call a Section 13 agreement, it's a legal document. Do it. Put it together. Other companies have done it in the past and provided units somewhere different when they couldn't be accommodated or they wouldn't fit in to the current concept they've had. But I just wonder why we're not getting those decisions that are coming out quite quickly. And an inspector now must have been, I don't know, maybe 2 months plus now. So he must have done something in his little report. And is it going to be a nice Christmas read for somebody?
We'll see. All right. Thanks, David.
See you, boy.
All right. It's good to hear from you. And Joy's on now with us. Hi, Joy.
Hello. How are you?
Good, thanks. What's on your mind, Joy?
Well, I'm sorry. In my opinion, if we don't have a bishop because the MHKs don't want them, then why have we got MLCs? Because they're not voted in neither.
No, that is very true. I mean, why do you think we should have a bishop, though?
Basically, I don't think we should have a bishop, but I don't think we should have MLCs neither. And the only MLCs that, in my opinion, are worth a salt would never get voted in by the MHKs because they're too much of a stirrer, like Mr. Karen, for example.
Wow, could you imagine Peter Karen in LegCo?
Yes, I could. Because I think he's done a lot for the island, and it should go by how many people voted for the MHKs that got in to be a member of LegCo, not a boys' club.
Do you think then that, and this has been mooted many times, that LegCo should be elected by the island, in that when we have a general election for the 12 constituencies, we should also elect MLCs at the same time, or maybe a proportion of them?
All of them.
All of them?
All of them should be. Yes, all of them should be voted in.
Well, it's interesting.
And the Council of Ministers are a party in their own right that all agree to the same things, and the people are just forgotten about. The Manx people are treated terribly, and I'm just disgusted with a lot of them.
But I mean, any chief minister, whether whichever, whether it's Mr. Cannon now, Mr. Quayle before, or Mr. Gelling, Mr. Corkill before that, they would all say that Council of Ministers, you have to have an inner team to run things. Do you think that's a bad thing to have an inner team?
Yes, I do, because they all appoint themselves to a certain way of thinking, and the rest of what they stood for when they got elected is forgotten about.
So how do you resolve this, Joy? What do we do?
I think on the voting slip you should have another box put on it for none of the above, because the way we're getting treated as Manx citizens, we may as well have a vote in England and decide whether we want Labour, Conservative, Green Party, or what we want in, because the way it is at the moment is disgusting.
Did you? I'm not going to ask you who you voted for, but did you vote at the last general election?
No, I didn't, because the choices I had, I would not vote in at all.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Joy. We appreciate you calling today.
Thank you. Bye.
I completely disagree with removing the bishop's vote, says Rosemary. If Laurie Hooper had put this in his manifesto, I would have voted for him. There are far more important things he should be concentrating on, not changing the fundamental way that the Isle of Man rules. And a message in just, should the scrutinising body be selected by those they're scrutinising? A better and more accountable LegCo will be chosen via the Appointments Commission. To vote them in would just be to replicate keys, says Janie. Well, again, many people have tried to reform LegCo as to how it should be, what it should be composed of, and how they should be actually voted in. Remember, LegCo candidates get voted in by members of the House of Keys. At the moment, as I say, there's 11, 8 independent, 3 ex officio, and the current composition of the LegCo is Tanya August Hanson, Paul Crane, Peter Greenhill, Bill Henderson, Diane Kelsey, Lawrence Skelly, who's the president, Kerry Sharp. The Bishop's place currently is vacant, Rob Mercer. Dawn Kinnish, the Attorney General, is Walter Wannenberg. Obviously, 2 of those were former MHKs. Bill Henderson and Lawrence Skelly were both put subject to popular election and were successful as MHKs. Now they're in LegCo. But what are your thoughts on this? I just want to also mention a sad demise on the Isle of Man, and there are many things that are going to be impacted by the takeover of ShopRite by Tesco, and one of them is a beacon of creativity in Onken, and that is the company called Range Left Jagged Right is going to cease trading at the end of this year. Obviously, Range Left Jagged Right did a lot of work for ShopRite, and it's probably no coincidence with Tesco coming in. Many people who supply ShopRite will make the difficult decision to reduce or to close their businesses. Now, Range Left Jagged Right was started 28 years ago by a great guy called Mike Savage, sadly no longer with us, followed by Mark Dudley. Mike's son Spencer got involved as well. And it was, I think, 3-4 years ago when Mike Savage suddenly passed. They kept on, and I just want to pay tribute to them. If you ever looked at any of the artwork in print for ShopRite, that's Range Left Jagged Right. They're at Village Walk in Onken, and a terrific bunch of people. So I wish everybody well. Mike Savage, I knew quite well. Mike was the world's biggest Johnny Mercer fan, so much so that he christened his daughter Savannah. So we wish you well, everybody at Range Left Jagged Right, in your future endeavours. That's just one of the things, and something that to bear in mind, by the way, when Tesco do finally rebrand and take over all the ShopRites. Remember, we will have lost ShopRite, iconic brand. We'll have lost Ramsey Bakery and just another company like Range Left Jagged Right. ShopRite were fantastic for the local economy. They put a lot of money into the Manx economy. Not least, it's been mentioned before, lots of the charities that were supported by ShopRite, often visibly, many times invisibly, with produce and raffle prizes. We wait to see what Tesco does in the future. But a sad day for the creative industries on the Isle of Man if we're losing Range Left Jagged Right.
In our quest to remove all single-use plastic from our milk packaging, Isle of Man Creamery cartons, including the new 1.75 litre carton, are now 100% recyclable, made from sustainable and renewable sources. We're the first in the British Isles to offer these new large cartons, and you can pick them up now in local retailers or add them to your Isle of Man Creamery doorstep delivery. Plant-based cartons from Isle of Man Creamery. Better for the environment, better for you.
Have you been invited to take part in the Household Income and Expenditure Survey? It's one of the most important surveys for our island because the information you provide is vital data for our island's financial planning. It helps us calculate our VAT revenue from the UK. Plus, it gives us a better understanding of the financial strains on residents, so we can support those who are struggling. If you've been invited, please take part. Visit gov.im/HIES for more information.
For your new bathroom, head to Pacesetter, Harris Terrace, Douglas or Spring Valley. In Pacesetter's fully fitted showroom, you'll find the latest bathroom products and designs, from new contemporary styles to traditional Victorian tiles, wall and ceiling panels, accessories and much more. With many ranges exclusive to Pacesetters, plus professional design advice from the experts, visit Pacesetter, Harris Terrace, Douglas or Spring Valley.
You can get the best of everything, where the price is twice as nice.
It's Manx Radio Christmas Classics on board the dining car on Wednesday the 13th of December. Enjoy a three-course meal and party away to the best Christmas hits, hosted by one of the fabulous Manx Radio presenters. Tickets are just £49 per person. Visit rail.im or book now on 697457. Manx Radio Christmas Classics, in association with your nation's station, Manx Radio.
Manx Radio and Orchard Recruitment are playing Santa this Christmas, so get your business on our nice list. From next Monday, the elves will be out delivering festive cheer and delicious mince pies to workplaces across the island. Nominate your company or department at manxradio.com and we could be sliding down your chimney. Workplace mince pies with your nation station, Manx Radio and Orchard Recruitment. A refreshing change.
Manx Radio, your Christmas station.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And John's with us. Hi, John.
Afternoon, Andy. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Yeah, what's on your mind?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did I hear you earlier say that Laurie Hooper doesn't represent the people that elected him?
I don't think I said that, but he certainly represents, I mean, he does. I think what I said was he's never said that he is a delegate, i.e., you know, he often falls out with people. He said it on Mannin Line. Often he's had discussions with people where he disagrees with them. So he is he's an independent MHK. He's got a mind of his own. So that's it.
Yeah, no, it took me by surprise, but I thought that you actually said that, I think it was Laurie Hooper, that somebody, you know, has their own mind and, you know, they don't actually represent the people, they've got their own agenda. But it may not be him, but anyway,
of course he'll have his own agenda. He's a politician.
Okay, but either way, that's the reason we need the bishop, to stop people like that. And where you got people, or should we say MHKs, having their own agenda as opposed to wanting to represent the people, the bishop is to supposedly stop people like that.
Right. Okay. So you think that that we should continue with the bishop? And again, it's a long tradition. He's the position. I mean, whoever the bishop is almost immaterial. The bishop represents the diocese of Soda and Man. So you think that the position of the bishop and the vote that the bishop has should stay?
Yes, and it's not specifically about the religion or Christianity or whatever religion you want to bring into it. It's about the morality of it. The bishop's supposed to look at it and say, how does this affect the people of the Isle of Man? Is it good for them or is it bad for them? And if you get a tyrannical government, the bishop is supposed to stand up for the people of the Isle of Man and say no. And that's where it comes down to. A lot of people, unfortunately, seem to think it's about religion. Well, yeah, it kind of is, but religion is supposed to be morals. Okay. And that's what it comes down to.
So if Mr. Hooper, I know, is an avid listener to Mannin Line, so if he's listening, what would you say to Mr. Hooper?
Well, I think it's personally driven. Like the other lady said, who was on just before me, that he never mentioned it in his manifesto. And if he had, she would never have voted for him. So I kind of see his actions as a bit deceivious, really. You then have to ask the question, what other personal motivation has he got that isn't to the benefit of the people of the Isle of Man?
Okay.
That's what I would ask him.
Also involved in this was Joni Farragher, the Douglas East MHK. She's the MHK who wanted to debate whether or not prayers should be said before meetings of the House of Keys.
Yeah, you're quite right. But it's not, how do I put it? It's not They should be doing what the people actually ask them to do. Not a case of, right, what do we think is a good idea? Oh, well, let's go off and do that and do this. I mean, if you go back to the meeting the other week on Wednesday down south about the wind turbines, I think the Chief Minister got a bit of a shock, really, when he got the reception that he did, because he was expecting everyone to be jumping up and saying how brilliant an idea it was. So these MHKs at the moment, apart from one or two, and yet Bonzo criticised, should we say, Tim Glover in saying, oh, well, Tim Glover opposes it. But Tim Glover's actually doing what the people are asking him to do, and that's what it comes down to. These MHKs who've got their own agendas and who don't, declare it, so to speak, when they stand for voting, it's a bit a stab in the back, really, I think.
What happens if an MHK changes their mind in that 5-year period?
Okay, but how do they change their mind? In the meeting the other night, a gentleman stood up and read out a passage that Alf Cannon had stated in Tynwald, I believe, a number of years ago, categorically against wind turbines. The gentleman asked Alf Cannon, well, what's changed? And he just said, well, things have changed. Yeah, but what? You've got to explain it. You've got to say, a bit more detail. You can't just say, oh, well, we're all for green energy. Yeah, but what does green energy mean? And like the other lady said, we didn't have the option to vote none of the above. And I would like to see that happen, because I reckon you get a big, big shock and a lot of people would vote none of the above.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that, John. Thanks for calling.
You're welcome. Take care. Have a good afternoon.
All right, you too. We should keep the bishop in Tynwald, says Mary. We are a Christian society. The people who want rid of the bishop should be careful what they wish for. The freedoms we have here are not enjoyed universally, and our freedoms are based on Christian principles, says Mary. Thanks for your point, Mary. You can text and you can email, call and WhatsApp. Now we see the value of Manxcare operating at arm's length. It frees Mr. Hooper to focus his attention on messing about with the bishop's role. Says G. Mr. Hooper, I think, is personally driven and doesn't represent the people that he's there to represent. There are so many important things our elected representatives should be spending time discussing rather than the bishop's vote. They all knew what the Constitution was when they stood for election. 14 voted for and 9 voted against currently. Thank you, James. When is our health minister going to start sorting out the serious failings of his department? Any thoughts on this? You can call. Lots of people mentioning this. No bishop's vote, no bishop, no Tynwald service equals no heritage. Where do you stop? Text 338. Well, where do we stop? If somebody wants to dismantle, and we are talking about dismantling part of LegCo by taking the Bishop of Soda and Man's vote away, then what's next? It's important that the horse trams run the entire length of the promenade. When people come on holiday, they want to see the entire length of the promenade. At the end of the prom are businesses, things like the Terminus Tavern. It's a place where people eat meals and sit looking over the bay. In Blackpool, they redeveloped their promenade. Can you imagine what would happen if Blackpool Council decided to cut the tram service down by half? It affects business, it affects tourism, says Michael. Thank you for your point. LegCo needs binning. Along with the bishop, they plead for votes to get in from MHKs. Then once in on the gravy train, Skell's words, by the way, rarely vote or hold government to any account on any serious subjects for fear of not being re-elected, says Skell in Port St Mary. Of all the LegCo, I think at the moment, we've only had one in on Mannin Line, or I think right at the beginning, the president came in, Lawrence Skelly came in to talk about his role. We've had one LegCo member in on Mannin Line. You may remember earlier on the ships, Kerry Sharp, who is the children's champion, and we talked at length. Kerry Sharp, again, very involved in LegCo, but also Kerry Sharp does have her own agenda. She is children's champion, and she's concerned about all sorts of things regarding that. The rest we haven't had in on Mannin Line. Maybe you think it's a good idea that we should get LegCo members in, but remember, they aren't elected by you, the people. They're elected by members of the House of Keys. Every single member of the House of Keys, I think, is corrupt, says Fred. Well, if you could prove that, Fred, that would be great. Otherwise, we'd file that one under a rant, don't we? And thanks also, I agree, both Joni Farragher in Health and Laurie Hooper are failing us. I wonder, could we name who voted for and against Laurie Hooper's Bishop's Bill? Thank you for that. I don't have it in front of me. I just know what happened. 068, this is a Christian country and the bishop should stay. I couldn't agree more with the previous caller. Wouldn't it be lovely if MHKs asked the public what they want? We want to keep the bishop. We don't... I'm sorry, your message split in half. If MHKs ask the public what they want, is that what you want from your MHK? Would you like the MHK really just to be an extension of what you think, or do we want to elect MHKs who have opinions, brains, ideas of their own? Or do we just want kind of robots, voting robots, who will do exactly what the public say? There is an answer to all this. There is an election in a couple of years' time. You could stand for election. Would that be something you would want to do? And if you put the time and effort into standing for election, you had your own opinions, some of those opinions will be different to some of your constituents. And what would you do then?
Oh, problems with your spine and posture can have a serious effect on your quality of life, but a Line for Life spine clinic could help. If you're suffering from back pain, neck pain, headaches, their holistic scientific approach could find and treat the root cause of the problem for long-lasting relief. Touch A Line for Life now or call 629 444. A Line for Life, the island's spine and posture clinic, here to make life better.
Everyone's more conscious of energy usage nowadays, so Manx Utilities has begun installing smart meters for standard domestic customers island-wide. With our Smart Living app available too, you'll be in control of tracking and managing your energy. No need to contact us, we'll be in touch when we're ready to fit your smart meter. Visit the Smarter Living page at manxutilities.im. Manx Utilities, delivering a smarter future.
Walk through the northern lights into a land of ice and snow at Ramsey Garden Centre. Indoor and outdoor lights, a magical range of real and artificial trees, decorations, gifts and much more. Christmas at Ramsey Garden Centre, Albert Road.
Looking for a great night out? Something a little different? Then join us at Mannin Hotel as we pay tribute to some of the best music acts in the world. Get your neon jumpsuit on for the Sensations 80s night on Saturday the 16th of December. For only £195 per couple, enjoy a night of your favourite music, a 3-course a la carte dinner, plus overnight stay and breakfast. Book now. Visit manninhotel.im or call 602 555.
It's that time again for us to be on board the Ross Revenge for another Radio Caroline North, all in conjunction with Manx Radio. We'll play you the best music from the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s and a splattering of Christmas songs. There's Thornton and France hampers to be won in our competition, and the whole weekend is sponsored by Turton Tower Woodland Cafe. Join us here at Radio Caroline North this weekend.
Radio Caroline North. The Mannin Line. Daily interaction, debate and exchange of ideas. Broadcast on Manx Radio.
Faster by, good afternoon. I don't know whether I mentioned earlier on the development that's going to be happening on the prom in Port Erin with the old Ocean Castle Hotel. It's a big development, but apparently the developer there says that negotiations are continuing whether affordable housing is going to be provided as part of the redevelopment of the former Ocean Castle Hotel. Now, Ocean Castle Limited, they're called, part of the Tavere Group, wants to build 38 apartments on the brownfield site, and it's going to be funded in part with taxpayers' money. The development, which is being progressed through the Island Infrastructure Scheme, is required to contain 9.5 affordable housing units. However, the group says it will be challenging to viably accommodate such units on the site. As a result, it doesn't believe it's suitable for affordable housing units. The De Vere Group's blamed increased building costs, which it says have resulted in the viability of the scheme being threatened. If they remember, they are getting public money out of this. So apparently what will happen is they're not going to put 9.5, let's say 9, shall we, affordable housing units, because they don't think it's going to fit or won't be right. But apparently what they're going to do is there's something called a commuted sum from this. Apparently, under the rules, they have to provide some of the units for affordable housing. Tavere, we've asked Tavere to speak about this, but we haven't heard from Tavere. DOI has said that the DOI will accept commuted sums from a developer in lieu of affordable housing where there's lack of demand for a particular area or certain property type. Another key reason could be when likely additional costs falling on apartment purchasers like annual service charges, ground rents might place too great a financial burden on first-time buyers at a time when they can least afford it. So apparently this commuted sum, preliminary discussions are taking place with the Ocean Castle people in the process of assessing possible future demand for affordable apartments in Port Erin. The commutable sum is calculated as the likely difference between the selling price per square metre of an affordable dwelling, currently £2,381 per square metre, pounds per square metre, compared to an open market equivalent, less any adjustment to reflect differing specifications. The amount of the commuted sum for the Ocean Castle application hasn't been assessed. When they've got it from the developers, commuted sums are paid into a Department of Infrastructure Housing Reserve Fund, which is used exclusively for supporting the development or refurbishment of affordable housing. Now, have you got any thoughts on that? John's with us now. Hi, John.
Hi again, Andy. How you doing?
Good, yes.
Not so long ago, a few moments ago, you mentioned, or should I say asked, the question of what kind of MHKs do we want? You know, do we want just a robot, or do we want people with intelligence who have their own ideas and thoughts and that kind of a thing? So a question for you and also for the listeners, what is the purpose of government?
To protect the people.
From what?
Well, everything, really. The first job of any government is the safety of the people. Obviously, there'll be welfare, there's health, there's wealth, employment, freedom from attack, all sorts of things.
So what if suddenly then an MHK decided that, you know, the majority of the people are going against his wishes, and so we'll change the Mental Health Act. So anyone that opposes government is deemed insane and locked up. Oh, but we're protecting you from yourself. Do you see my point?
It's fairly up there. I mean, I've never heard of that so far. But I mean, underneath that, what's the point you're trying to make?
Well, isn't the purpose of government to administer the realm in accordance to the wishes of the people? Isn't that the whole point of what we vote for? Isn't that when the MHK stand up and say, or potential MHKs, we will do this for you, we will do that for you. So you vote for them. They go for whatever sounds good so that you vote for them. And then when they get in, their whole agenda changes. So again, it comes back around to the question of the bishop, so to speak, that the whole point of government is to administer the realm according to the wishes of the people. Just something to think about. I just thought I'd put it out there and see what people have to say.
Terrific. Thanks for that, John. I appreciate your call today. And if you have any thoughts on this, by the way, out of hours, we're just about out of time now, and I've got lots of messages to get through, but we're just about out of time now. Remember, out of hours, you can get in touch with Mannin Line on 682-631, 682-631. Email manninline@manxradio.com. I don't remember Dr. Ranson going off on 2 lots of secondments when she was medical director. Well, she wasn't on the Isle of Man. Before she only came just before COVID, didn't she? It would have saved an awful lot of trouble and many millions of pounds if they'd sent Dr. Ranson on secondment. Oh, thank you, Dick. Dick's opinion on that. You can hear that programme, by the way, on the Rosalind Ranson, Catherine Magson thing tonight. It's on the BBC tonight on BBC Radio. You can find it on their catch-up service. I prefer you listen to Chris Kinley, but then that's my opinion. That's it. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Back open line tomorrow.
WINT.